The Belchertown High School class of 2016 is proud to welcome our featured commencement speaker, Mr. Stephen Mathris. Innovation Project Engineer at Nike, Mr. Mathris graduated from the Belchertown High School class of 2003 as the salutatorian of his class and went on to earn a Bachelor of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering from Northeastern University. He has been working at Nike headquarters in Oregon since 2009 and moved into his role as an innovative project engineer in 2013. A gentleman, scholar, athlete, and all-around good guy, the class of 2016 is thrilled to welcome home commencement speaker Stephen Mathris.
Go, Steve. Class of 2016, welcome and thank you for having me. My name is Steve Mathris, and like Ben said, I'm a Belchertown High graduate from the class of 2003. I want to talk about two main things tonight: trying hard and getting outside of your comfort zone. But first, I'm going to start with a quick story. A few weeks ago, I was sitting at work, and I got a voicemail on my desk phone, and nobody uses a desk phones at work, so I kind of ignored it. But after a couple days, the light on my phone started to bother me, so I listened to the message, and it went something like this. Hey Steve, it's Chris Vigno. I hope you still remember me. Anyway, I know this is out of the blue, but something came up at school and I wanted to talk to you about it. I probably could have got in touch with your mom to get your cell number, but I don't know. I understand if you can't get back to me, but if you could, it'd be great. Here's my work phone number and here's my cell phone number. Thanks. I was terrified when I put the phone down. What could I have done in high school to be coming back to right now? What could have happened that was so bad or mischievous that she wouldn't talk to my parents and would call Nike corporate to get in touch with me? So as I'm racking my brain trying to think of pranks that might just be resurfacing now, I tried her numbers without any luck. So I'm getting kind of nervous. And text my buddy Mark from high school, and I'm like, hey, can you think of any reason why Chris Vigno might be calling me? I think Mark was probably more nervous than I was. A couple minutes later, he called me back, and he said, you know what? I wouldn't worry about it. I think if it was anything serious, Ryan or I would have been contacted first. And I laughed because he was probably right, and any of the veteran faculty here would likely agree. So obviously, the call is about coming here today, and frankly, I'm honored to be back. There are a lot of people, a lot of successful people that have graduated from this high school, and a lot of them are more successful than I am in the traditional sense. They've completed more education, make more money, drive nicer cars than I do. In fact, those two guys I mentioned before are both doctors now. Mark's an orthodontist, and Ryan has his PhD in micro-electromechanical systems and is working at a company that could revolutionize handheld electronics. But nevertheless, I feel like I've been successful also. I did well here at BHS, and I went on to Northeastern, studied mechanical engineering, and did well there. And now I have a job that I love, working in new product development at Nike in Oregon. And that's part of why I feel successful. The other part comes from the life that I've made for myself outside of work. I have an amazing group of friends that I explore the Pacific Northwest with. And whether we're just camping and hiking or backpacking, rock climbing, surfing, cycling, I get out of town almost every weekend. And this has become an extremely fulfilling part of my life that wasn't even on my radar when I was in high school. Doing well and getting a job was easy for me to visualize in school, but these other things weren't. I didn't grow up doing them. I kind of identified these as sparks of interest and realized that if I didn't pursue them, they would never happen. So when I graduated from college, I went after them at full tilt. I moved to Portland, not for the job that I have now, that came later, but for the lifestyle that I wanted to live. I had job offers to stay in Boston, and I took kind of a leap of faith and listened to myself by turning them down and heading to the West Coast with nothing but my best friend from college and the same car that I got when I was 15 years old, which I still drive. And honestly, that's proven to be one of the decisions that I feel best about having made to date. The flexibility of my job and the hobbies that I'm into have taken me to places that I never could have anticipated and far outside just the Pacific Northwest. I've had the opportunity to climb in Yosemite, the Devil's Tower in Wyoming, Red Rocks in Nevada, Chief in British Columbia, as well as in Thailand and Vietnam. And I've been able to surf not only in 19-degree weather in Oregon in the winter, but in Costa Rica, Mexico, and Canada. And those experiences opened my eyes to a reality far different than anything I could have imagined as a young BHS student. And I don't mean to share these things to brag about what I've done, because the truth is I'm not the best at any of them. I was a very average athlete in high school. I think the only varsity sport I played was golf. But that's exactly why these things give me a feeling of personal success. And that's kind of the first thing that I want to highlight tonight, is that from what I can tell, success has little to do with other people think, and almost everything to do with how you feel like you've done. Even if people think of you as successful, but you know that you've got your cutting corners, you're not going to feel good about it anyway. And it doesn't really matter what other people think anyway. I'm sure there's people that would tell me that I haven't been successful for reasons X, Y, and Z. But the fact is I wouldn't give up the experiences that I've had in the last 10 years for anything. So I ask you to not get caught up in thinking about success in any one way. I remember graduating from high school. I had no idea what I really wanted to do, and I suspect a lot of you feel the same way. How was I supposed to know what any job would feel like on a day-to-day basis? But you need to take your best guess and go hard at it. Whatever it is you choose to do after this, whether it's college or not. If you can apply yourself and give it everything that you have, you can live your life free of regret and feel successful no matter what the outcome is. And don't be afraid to change paths. Like I said, what you're doing now is probably just a best guess. So if you find out that you aren't happy, be flexible with yourself and take steps to correct it. Earlier is better than later when it comes to that stuff. But believe me, there's going to be a lot of things in the next 4 years that you aren't inspired by that you have to do. And like certain classes in college, some bureaucratic stuff that there's just no way around. And that's different from not being on a path that you think is going to make you happy. That's important to keep in mind. The only failure that I have come almost entirely from things that I didn't give 100%. So whatever you do, try hard at it. That will certainly pay off. Another thing to remember as you take this next step in life is that nobody has anything more figured out than you do. Really remind yourself of that. Everybody feels like they have no idea what's going on. The people that are more comfortable with that feeling of uncertainty will be the ones that seem like they do. And so the second thing that I want to talk about is about getting out of your comfort zone. And this is a practical way to help be more comfortable with that feeling. So take something that you already have a passion about, like a hobby, and push yourself way outside of the zone where you know you'll be successful at it. Since it's something that you're already into, you'll have the drive to commit yourself to it. So for example, let's say you like running, and maybe you run 3 to 5 miles a week, or 3 to 5 miles at a time. A half marathon or a marathon may seem out of sight. But I'd encourage you to sign up for one anyway. Give yourself time to train for it, and the chances are you'll probably make it through. The real gains will be made on a mental level while you're training and during the actual event itself. When you get into a situation where the fear of failure is real, you go places in your mind that you don't get to access that frequently. And when you get through something like this, you sort of level up mentally. You're able to manufacture an uncomfortable situation and figure out how you're going to react emotionally and physically in that situation. And the more that you do this, the more comfortable you'll be with that fear of failure and the feeling of being overwhelmed. And then when a situation occurs in your everyday life, whether it's at work or school or with friends, family, you're going to be a little bit better at handling it. A little bit more comfortable taking a step back and a deep breath and trusting in yourself that you'll be able to figure out a solution without freaking out. I continually do this to myself with my hobbies. Take cycling, for example. I ride 13 miles each way to work every day. That in and of itself took years and a lot of mental and physical conditioning to get there. And so one day, my buddy Mike suggested that we do this ride called the Oregon Outback. It goes the entire height of Oregon, from California all the way up to the Columbia River at the Washington side. It's 360 miles. And when I found out that most people do it in 3 nights was when I got that first feeling of fear. The first 3 days would be the hardest 3 rides of my life, back to back to back. It just seemed unreasonable. 120 miles on gravel in cow pastures the first day, followed by 110, followed by 80. I couldn't imagine it. But knowing that other normal people like I had finished it, I sort of started to change my mind and start believing that it was possible. So we did some training rides to get ready, but nothing could have really prepared me for the mental trials that went on during it. So I rode the ride with four of my buddies, and there were maybe 200 other people that rode it that weekend. It was an unsupported ride, but semi-organized. And so we had the idea that we're going to leave half an hour before everybody else in the morning just to get out ahead. We had 120 miles to do, and we just didn't want to feel like we were racing anybody, whatever. So we're out there, we're about 11 miles in. The first 10 or 11 are all paved. So the spirits are high, we're doing well. Then we hit the first section of gravel, and about half mile in, I just hear, psh. Look down, my back tire is flat. I'm like, okay, not a big deal. I've had plenty of flat tires. I can do this. I take it off, put a new tube in, pumping it back up, get it on my bike, and as I'm putting it back on, I notice that my tube is coming out of the side of my rear tire. That's not good. The tire was destroyed. The sidewall broke. Luckily, I had another one. Took it off, put a new tube in, got it back on. As I'm getting my bike set back up, whew, all 200 of these people that we just left before just pass us. I'm like, okay, this isn't exactly how we pictured the morning going, but okay. So we're trying to move to catch back up with everyone and get these 120 miles done. And at about mile 55, I get flat. I'm the only one in my group that's like flatting or holding anything up. And so it's hard. I'm feeling overwhelmed, right? Get it patched up, we get going. But I hadn't eaten enough along the way, and I just have this feeling of doom. Like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to finish this. I don't even know about finishing the first day, never mind the whole thing. So I'm already thinking about how I can bail out after the first night. Who can I call to come pick me up? But then I kind of remembered the importance of taking things in chunks, not stomaching everything at once. And that's really applicable to a lot of things in life. So I just focused on 5 miles at a time. I'll just do 5 miles and then worry about the next 5 miles. Long story short, I finished the whole thing, and it was an amazing experience. And about a month later, I was sitting at work, and my boss came up to me and he said, "Hey, Steve, I need you to give a presentation next week to the Vice President of Footwear Innovation." Initial reaction was fear, but then, having done that ride and having done other similar things like that, I was able to just be like, okay, I'll figure it out. I'm going to be able to do it. Surfing and climbing and cycling, they might be the things that you wind up getting into, and that's fine. Whatever it is you do, push yourself further than you think you can and try hard. If you do those things, you'll be at peace with yourself, and you'll wind up with your own personal feeling of success. One last thing. Be grateful for the fact that you got to go to this high school. There are a lot of kids in this country and around the world who won't have the opportunity to grow up in a community like Belchertown and attend a school with such a caring faculty and staff. So don't take that for granted. Be nice to other people, especially people that are different from you, and be nice to the planet. Try hard and make yourselves proud. Good luck and thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mathras. We're so glad you could join us tonight. Class officers.
Good evening, family, friends, and faculty. Unfortunately, Mr. Mathras was not able to bring with him custom BHS Nike for all in attendance. However, Mr. Mathras' willingness to come and share after BHS is more than enough. As the class thought of an impactful way to thank Mr. Mathras, it became clear quickly that something that came directly from a student here would be the most impactful way to thank him and allow him to remember his time with us tonight. With that being said, I would now like to introduce Belchertown's very own Shane McConnell and his piece of artwork, which he will present to Mr. Mathers as a gift. It is a photograph of a watch taken at Quab. On the back is a quote from our senior song, I Live by One Republic, which reads, I owned every second that this world could give. The class of 2016 hopes that this beautiful piece of art, coupled with the quote, which embodies the spirit of myself and my peers, will allow Mr. Mathers to fondly remember both tonight and his days as a BHS Oriole. Thank you.